So recently, while porting over maps for a mod I've been helping with working on, both in terms of maps, textures, models, stuff like that, I was decompiling this map as there is a version of it for Half-Life 2 Deathmatch, and looking through the decompiled map, I found that there is just this kind of corridor hidden away. And I found this, I want to say a couple of years back, but I never really thought much of it. I still really don't. The only thing I can really think of it being is a cache for supplies and whatnot, which would explain the somewhat randomly placed boards that can all be punted. This is really the only, well, okay, almost the only location that I have found to be completely hidden away with nothing in it and completely inaccessible. As in, there is no way you could get in here, even if you had, like, say, some way of just teleporting to wherever you were looking, which there is a command for that. So even if there was some kind of way to slip through a very incredibly small crack, there aren't any. There is no genuine way of getting in here, other than maybe some form of save load glitch, which I am not even going to attempt. There's really only a few ways I could see you having been able to get in here, which is either something being in this pillar, which if you've played Entropy Zero 2, you'd know that there's a spot where the ceiling is opened up and you get picked up. But this is broken at one point, which alerts a whole bunch of antlions. Speaking of antlions, I have disabled their spawn by putting a whole bunch of brain models. They're all just sitting up there also. I have a upscaled texture pack, and that seems to be a remnant of it. That looks really, really gross. But I just put a whole bunch of brain models on top of where they usually spawn. This is probably an overabundance of them. I could probably remove almost all of them. But just in the few places where they do spawn, I have brain models so that way they don't continue to spawn. Although their audio is still playing of them both spawning and existing, which is strange. Now, earlier I mentioned that this is almost the only place in the game that I have personally found that is completely inaccessible in the terms of there is not even a way to get sight into this room. And that is because there is one other room, which is also in this map, which is off this way. Specifically, there is this room, which this room you can access completely fine. Anyways, there's this room, which doesn't really have much of anything in it. It's got a little table. This is really the only thing in here other than a couple puntable props that can be ripped off the wall. I don't think you can do that with this. No. But these, if you'll notice, do not have a way of opening. You cannot interact with them. However, this room does indeed still have a room behind it, but the only thing in it is a table. There's nothing else in here. It's just this. There's not even a texture for where the door is on the other side. But it's just kind of here, which I'd imagine this probably would have been similar to this, but they'd have had a cache, or similar to, like this one, where there is a cache. But there's also the possibility that these were all supposed to be openable, and they only did this one. And whenever they went to go to do this one, they just decided there was no point. Now, my main thing about these still existing is the fact that these take up render time when rendering a map. So you'd think that they'd be removed. And with this being I wouldn't say large map by any means, it's still large enough that I would consider that you'd want to cut down the time that this takes to compile. Also, there's a location over there which shows up on a television screen somewhere. I want to say it's over here. Yes. No. Or yes, it is. This is way off that way. That's what this is. You'd think that... What the hell? Uh, okay. But yeah, the small room over here that is completely empty, I'd imagine was likely also supposed to be a cache, or the cache that was supposed to be down there got moved to here and they never removed the room, which would very much explain why this is just sealed off and inaccessible. I don't know why there aren't props in that room though, like the toilet, the sink, and the what I'm guessing is a radiator. Also, if you're wondering why I have the super gravity gun here, I have a mod enabled that automatically gives you one at the beginning of every map, which I kind of forgot I had enabled. I was using for testing on some of my own custom maps. But as far as I'm aware, these are really the only maps that have... This is the only map that I know of that has an inaccessible area like that. Now, in this map, there is indeed another similar area, which is accessible. And this area is just kind of hidden off back this way. Uh, anyways, I'm going to disable the super gravity gun, as it doesn't interact with prompts the way I need it to. It may have a increased force, however, for some odd reason, it doesn't punt objects the same as that of the normal orange gravity gun. Also, 0. Instead of having a decent amount of force behind it, it doesn't hunt very well, especially in a downwards angle like this. However, whenever it is in its normal state, you can get a bit of height out of it. And this is that room, which I saw this in an ARG a long ass time ago, and I just got kind of curious if you could actually get up here, and you can. There's no radio, which if you've seen said ARG, you know what I'm referring to. Those are really the only hidden places that I rarely hear people talk about, other than the room over here. The two rooms that are off that way, I have literally never heard a single person talk about. Huh. Okay, I appear to have found something else. This gate here has a hidden door. Oh. Wait, but that thing never opens. Wait, does it? Hold on. As far as I'm aware, that door literally never opens. Oh. This just doesn't have collision. I don't know why I assumed it would, but... Whoa. What the hell? Why is this corridor so long? That's unnecessary. You never see that far anyways. You could have just made it so that way it gets to where the fog ends, but... No, it goes far, far beyond that.